Welcome to Lights on Literature. In this video lesson, we shall learn the summary of Shelley's sonnet Ozymandias. This lesson will help you know the context of the poem, learn a quick summary and a detailed summary of the poem as well. A supplementary video lesson discusses the themes of the poem and the different literary devices used. What is the context of writing this poem? During the Christmas season of 1817, Horace Smith stayed with the Shelleys. They discussed the recent discoveries in the Near East. Napoleon's invasion of Egypt in 1798 had opened up the discovery of archaeological treasures. They remembered the Roman-era historian Diodorus Siculus, who in his 40-volume Bibliotheca Historica had described a statue of Ozymandias, who was more commonly known as Ramesses II. Diodorus mentions the inscription on the statue as "King of Kings Ozymandias am I. If any want to know how great I am and where I lie, let him outdo me in my work." Shelley and Smith wrote sonnets based on the passage by Diodorus. Shelley's sonnet Ozymandias became one of the best-known sonnets in English literature. The statue and its inscription did not survive and were not seen by Shelley. His inspiration for Ozymandias was verbal rather than visual. Let us understand the timeline of this sonnet. Ramesses II was the greatest pharaoh who reigned Egypt from 1303 to 1213 BC. Diodorus Siculus was a Roman-era historian who lived from 90 to 30 BC. In his Bibliotheca Historica, Diodorus mentions the statue of King Ramses the Great. In 1817, Shelley's and Horace Smith discussed the statue of the King Ramses the Great. You and I now today are discussing the poem Ozymandias written by Shelley. Let's first understand the word Ozymandias. Ozymandias was the throne name of Pharaoh Ramses II. The modern usage of the word refers to any tyrant, a dictator, a megalomaniac, or something of immense size, a colossus. This usage is derived from Shelley's poem Ozymandias. Let's have a simple, quick summary. The narrator of the poem meets a traveler from an ancient land. The setting is a desert. In the desert, two big trunkless legs made of stone stand. The broken face lies on the desert sand. The broken face still shows a frown, a wrinkled lip, and a sneer of cold command. The sculptor was successful in making his artistic expressions permanent. On the pedestal it is written, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings." It also calls other mighty people to look at his works and despair. The harsh fact is that now nothing remains. What remains is the vast stretch of sand around the big broken statue. The poem is a meditation on the fragility of human power and on the effects of time. Let's move on to a detailed summary. A sonnet is a type of 14-line poem. Traditionally, the 14 lines of a sonnet consist of an octave, 2 quatrains making up a stanza of 8 lines, and a sestet, a stanza of 6 lines. Sonnets generally use a meter of iambic pentameter and follow a set rhyme scheme. Within these general guidelines for what makes a sonnet, there are a wide variety of variations. The two most common sonnet variations are the Italian sonnet, which is also called a Petrarchan sonnet, and the English sonnet, which is also called a Shakespearean sonnet. Caesura is a stop or a pause in a metrical line, often marked by punctuation or by a grammatical boundary, such as a phrase or clause. The poem begins with the first person singular pronoun I, which is a mere framing device. The I quickly fades away. The mysterious traveler from an antique land narrates the remaining 13 lines of the poem. The reader encounters Shelley's poem like an explorer coming upon a strange, desolate landscape. The first image that we see is the two vast and trunkless legs of stone in the middle of a desert. Column-like legs, but no torso. The center of this great figure remains missing. The sonnet comes to a halt in the middle of its first quatrain. Are these fragmentary legs all that is left? After this caesura, the poem describes a shattered visage, the enormous face of Ozymandias. The visage is taken apart by time's ruinous force. Shelley describes the face with its frown and wrinkled lip and a sneer of cold command. Cold command is the emblem of the empire-building ruler of the tyrannical kind that Shelley despised. The second quatrain shifts to another mediating figure, now not the traveler, but the sculptor who depicted the pharaoh. The sculptor had captured the passions of the tyrant very well. The tyrant's passionate rage to impose himself on the world is well captured. Ozymandias' intense emotions survive, stamped on these lifeless things. Shelley attests that the sculptor survives as well. Our parts of him do. The hand that mocked, the king's passions, and the heart that fed. The sculptor's attitude might resemble the pharaoh's own aggressive enjoyment of empire. Ruler and artist seem strangely linked here. The latter's contempt for his subject does not free him from Ozymandias' enormous shadow. The sestet moves from the shattered statue of Ozymandias to the pedestal with its now ironic inscription. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty and despair. Of course, the pharaoh's works are nowhere to be seen in this desert wasteland. The kings that he challenges with the evidence of his superiority are the rival rulers of the nations he has enslaved, perhaps the Israelites and the Canaanites known from the biblical account. The pedestal stands in the middle of a vast expanse. Shelley applies two alliterative phrases to this desert, boundless and bare, and lone and level. The seemingly infinite empty space provides an appropriate comment on Ozymandias' political will, which has no content except the blind desire to assert his name and kingly reputation. Finally, what remains is just sand. What remains is just sand. Thank you.